Hi, I'm Molly, Word on the Street's editor-in-chief and Word on the Web's special reporter, and I'm here at Interfaith Sanctuary's current emergency shelter. I'll be asking Kate a question we received from a Word on the Web viewer named Karen in regards to the intake process here at the River Street shelter. So let's get some insight from Kate. Hi, Kate, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you, Molly?
Good. So we
Good.
had a Word on the Web viewer ask a question about the intake process here at the River Street shelter. So I was hoping you could give us some insight onto what that process looks like for new guests coming in.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
So while Interfaith Sanctuary functions out of this facility, what can new guests expect when they walk into the shelter for the first time?
Yeah, that's a super great question. I'm happy you're asking. A couple just basic in-the-door things that a guest is going to be dealing with is usually me. They usually are going to be meeting with a staff member just to make sure we make contact with them physically and get an ID from them if they have one. The only reason a resident would not be able to stay here is if they're required to register as a sex offender. So we always check that through ID. And then once we have that verified that that's not an issue, we go forward with an intake packet.
And what does that intake packet involve?
Yeah. So the intake packet is basically the walkthrough of what we expect from residents and what we are going to be giving residents, essentially. So it's kind of like, here's what you can expect from me to serve you and what I'm going to be able to do for you. And then here's how our shelter operates as a whole, so you know where you need to be when you need to be there.
So that's how they learn about expectations and options available to them.
Exactly. They learn about nightly operations, about what the timeline is like, because we kind of have a specific timeline we follow each evening. And then along with that, they also are offered case management options as well as recovery and mental health programming.
Okay, great. What does that timeline in the evening look like?
Yeah, so right now we're in the little pre-time phase where we're not really open, quote. Usually that time starts around 4, that like time wave. And so what we'll do is we'll take our first thing on that kind of timeline is we take a wait list at 4:30 p.m. every day. It's what we found to be the best way to just make contact with people who are wanting to stay that evening who don't already stay or don't have a bed to stay in currently. So once we get that list, that's kind of how we guesstimate how many people we're expecting to shelter that night. And then we go from there with the bed assignments and opening.
Okay, great. And can people stay all day or all night, or how does that work?
It's going to be definitely, when we're at the new shelter, that's going to be a different answer. But at this moment in time, the folks who can stay inside are medically fragile. So folks who maybe have higher medical needs and can't be outside in the exposure all day because it puts them at a higher risk for a health issue. Or if they're in our mental health programming or our recovery programming.
Okay.
So otherwise, if they're not in those programs, we ask that they leave in the morning at 8:15 and go over to Corpus Christi, or if they're working with a case manager. So if they're seeking like resources like benefit support, job applications, housing applications, just kind of general case management stuff, they would be allowed to stay and to work on that.
Otherwise, everyone else is allowed to come in at 4:30 for that wait list process.
Yeah, so we open our bullpen, quote bullpen. It's just a fence that we have just to kind of keep the perimeter clear of what the perimeter of Interfaith is. We open that at 4:30 and we take that wait list, and then 30 minutes later at 5 is when we open our actual doors for everyone to come inside the building.
And that's on the back side of the
Yeah,
property.
and that's on the back side. So that's going to be, this is like the front door, but this is like the real front door because that's
Okay,
where everyone's
yeah.
actually coming through. So if anything, that's like the back door. So yeah.
Gotcha, okay. What do meals look like for, how are meals handled when a guest is coming for the evening?
So we do have a food program here that I am super a fan of, but we have an operational like food trailer kitchen. It's a commercial kitchen inside of a food trailer basically. And we have residents who rotate in and out each night serving dinner that we get from Life's Kitchen or just donations that we receive from the community. Depending on what we have available to us is what we'll be serving, so.
Great. And guests can be involved in serving in that way.
Yeah, guests are always, they're more than welcome. We encourage volunteer work around the shelter. It gives people kind of something to do so they're not just like sitting idly. And it makes people feel good and it makes other people happy to be able to do something that they know makes a good impact, so.
Great. And you have a chore system, right? Is that just for programmers or every
The chore
all guests?
chart, yes. So everyone who has a bunk in this building has a chore assigned to them based numerically on their bunk number. So we have 74 bunks in the men's dorm. So if I was a man staying there and I was in bunk 32, let's say, I would have a chore assigned to me on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I would have a bed strip once a week. So that means I would get new bedding once a week. I would take all of my old bedding off, give it to laundry, and then get new bedding that night. So everyone gets new bedding once a week, and then they have chores twice a week that they sign up for in the morning.
Okay, great. And so all this is taking place at our current River Street shelter.
Yeah.
And that will
It's gonna look drastically different.
look different and improve in the new State Street shelter. What are you most looking forward to in that new shelter?
Oh God, there's so many answers. I'm just so looking forward to having like adequate support for our community, because that building and that space, like it's not just a building, like it's gonna be like, it's a housing solution. It's kind of almost like, I didn't really understand what this project was at first, because I was like, it's not like a shelter, then what is it? And it's like a housing solution. So essentially, like what we're hoping to be doing is kind of rotating people through and then getting them to that next resource so they can hopefully get housed faster, which is super exciting. I love hearing that. It makes me so excited because I love this community and they deserve to have their needs met. And currently, as it stands in this building, we're doing everything we can, but I know that there's something more we can do, hence we're going to do more. We're going to go to the new building, and I'm just really excited.
Mm-hmm. The new shelter home.
New shelter home! Exactly, yes, shelter home.
And how do you make people feel welcome when they come through the door for the first time and it's new for them?
Yeah, being unhoused is very terrifying, and it's very emotionally taxing. I have been unhoused before. I know how stressful it can be. I haven't been in a shelter environment, and I'm very lucky that I was able to kind of get out of that situation before I was eventually going to have to be in a shelter. But nonetheless, that feeling of just not knowing where you belong is very difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so what I try to do when I meet somebody new who's in this environment, whether they've been chronically homeless or whether this is their first time in their entire life and they have no idea what's going on, same expectation of kindness and compassion when I meet them of just, hey, I'm here to make this space safe for you. I'm here to advocate for you and help you get your needs met. I'm gonna work just as hard as you'll work hard. So whatever it takes to get you to your goal, we'll do that. So I always just try to like really emphasize that like I am here to support their goal, whatever that is in their autonomy, in the sense of if they want to get housing, if they want to get a job, if they want to start school, whatever their priorities are, I want to meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard that from a lot of guests that say you are an encouragement to them on a daily basis. So keep doing what you're doing.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your insight, Kate.
Of course, Molly. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thanks, Kate. Let's go back to Jody and Nathan for the rest of this Word on the Web episode.